If you've ever driven through western Texas or eastern New Mexico, I can guarantee you've had this thought: God, I hope my car doesn't break down. My then wife, Heidi, and I are standing on the side of a two-lane highway just across the New Mexico state line. There is smoke pouring out of the hood of our car. The engine looks like it's having a seizure. Oh, and it's the middle of August around noon in the desert. I can look in any direction and everything I see looks like it died a long time ago. And we're thousands of miles away from home, from our friends and our family. This is day 3 of our road trip, and we're moving from central Pennsylvania to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where in a few days I'll start a graduate program in urban planning. This wasn't the first time I had left my hometown, but it was the first time I didn't think I'd ever go back. We had packed everything we owned into a small Volvo wagon and a U-Haul trailer. And I'll admit, I was a little suspicious that the trailer was probably too heavy for this car, but I figured, as long as we took it easy, we'd survive the trip. Well, the first sign of trouble happened before we had left the great state of Pennsylvania. We were just outside of Pittsburgh, and the check engine light came on. Now, typically, I will ignore the check engine light for as long as possible. When you're starting, a 2,000-mile road trip, you kind of want to know that the engine's okay. So, I did what it said. I pulled to the side of the road. I checked the engine. Now, as JJ noted, my family was Amish. We don't know a lot about engines, so checking the engine really didn't do a whole lot. So I get back in the car, and I take the next exit, and I find a professional, a mechanic, who looks over the car, and he says, the engine seems to be fine. He resets the light, and he tells me, you really only have to be worried if the check engine light starts blinking. Okay. All right, noted. See, if you didn't know that before, you can ignore it for a long time. It starts blinking, stop ignoring it. So we're heading off on the road trip, and I'm doing my best to keep around 60 miles an hour. I'm not going too fast, and we make it through the rolling hills of the Midwest and all those Kansas cornfields and the god-awful Texas Panhandle. And we had just crossed the New Mexico state line, and we're going up this long incline. And suddenly, out of nowhere, a semi-truck tries to merge right in front of me. Now, the smart thing to do in that situation, especially pulling a too big trailer, is to slow down. I stepped on the gas. And so we're going 60 miles an hour, and then we're going 65 miles an hour, and then we're going 70 miles an hour, and the car starts to shake, and then it happens. The check engine light starts blinking. And I unleashed a flood of curse words. You fucking piece of shit truck driver. So again, I pull to the side of the road, and the truck whizzes by, and here we are in the middle of nowhere, USA, with basically everything we own in a car that looks like it's on fire. And I'm really questioning this decision to move away from the security of a place that I'd called home for most of my life. So we don't have much of a plan. I figured, maybe just give the car a little break. Maybe it needs a little power nap. So we stand by the side of the road in the desert heat and wait. And after a couple of minutes, a big Cadillac with Texas plates pulls up behind us, and this old rancher gets out. And I've never been so happy to see a Texan. And he comes over and he asks, what's going on. And I explain to him, I think the car overheated, and I'm just, hoping that it'll cool down. And he recommends that I leave the car running because the fans will help to cool down the engine. I didn't know that, so great advice. I do that. And then he asked if we have enough water. And I said, actually, we're out of water. So he goes back to the Cadillac, he pulls out this big jug of water, and he comes over and gives it to us, and he says, whenever you're in the desert, make sure you have plenty of water. Smart guy. So So he heads out. We got our water. We wait a little bit longer, and eventually, like, the car seems to like chill out. It's not like smoking or seizing anymore. The check engine light's still on. It's not blinking. So I figured it's time to get back on the road. So we start the trip again, and at first I'm kind of driving like half on the road, half off the road, going like 30 miles an hour and building up confidence. And then we get back up. We're on the road 60 miles an hour. Things seem to be going well. We're 2 hours outside of Albuquerque. We just passed the sleepy town of Santa Rosa, New Mexico, and starting to hit some hills. And the wind picks up, and the trailer is swaying behind us. And then it starts to rain. And I can feel the strain of the car engine as we crest every hill. And again, I'm thinking, I don't think we're going to make it. I'm pretty sure that the car by itself would be able to make it, but not with the trailer. So I make a decision. I'm going to ditch the trailer. I figured I can rent a truck the next day and come back for it. So I take the next exit. I backtrack back to Santa Rosa. I stop at a dollar store and buy a cheap padlock. I find a semi-lit parking lot between a gas station and a hotel that in Santa Rosa counts as densely populated. So I figured this is probably a good spot. Unhook the trailer, and I chain it to a telephone pole, lock it into place, and I pray to God it's still there the next day when I come back for it. And the rest of the drive is fairly uneventful without the weight of the trailer. The car is fine. And as we're approaching Albuquerque and the Great Sandia Mountains are on our right, and the lights of the city are spread out in front of us, these giant bolts of lightning flash in the sky, and it feels like a welcoming party. And by this point, we're famished, and we stop at a little grocery store to pick up some food, and the cashier asks if we're new to town. I think we kind of look like we're from the East Coast. And I say, yeah, we just arrived today. And he says, welcome home. And we were home.